Today in science, we are going to be going through a little introduction to the free inquiry proposal, which will give us a launching off point for your electromagnetism project. To give you a brief introduction, and please don't get too overwhelmed by this, we'll go step by step, but a free inquiry proposal, and we're using Trevor Mackenzie and Rebecca Bathurst Hunt's work, has 6 main components, and this just gives you an idea of where I'm going to be going. So this is what we'll be putting together before you start your research. So the first step is to decide what is your essential question and share why it is meaningful to you. So this is what we started working on this last week, where you were looking at your prior knowledge, you were looking at surprising research about electromagnetism, and then you're coming up with your own personal essential question on electromagnetism. And when you are kind of sharing your information with me as you propose things, you'll also need to share why it is meaningful to you. Now, the next piece that we'll introduce today is what is your authentic piece and how will you make your learning public? So how would you present your learning and the information you will be discovering? After this, you'll look at what will you read, research, and study to help explore your essential question? What are your goals for your free inquiry? What learning evidence will you gather to capture everything you're learning about your essential question? And what is your plan? So you'll create a calendar. So for today, we are going to do a quick review of what your essential question is. And we are also going to do an introduction to authentic pieces. We will be touching on these next 4 steps as we get a little bit further into our unit. We're going to start with a quick review of essential questions, which are the first part of the pitch, and this is what we've just been learning about. So the first section of your proposal would be your essential question. So you would start by stating what your essential question is. And so this is something that we have been working through the last little bit. The second thing you'll be answering in this question is, why is this question meaningful to you? Part of coming up with an essential question was making sure it is personally meaningful. Now, when you are setting this up, you will need to have this section actually be 1 paragraph at least. And I'm going to share with you an example from Trevor Mackenzie's book of what an essential question could look like and what their explanation of why it is meaningful to them is. Here is an example from Trevor Mackenzie's book that one of his students did for an inquiry project, and it's on a different topic. So this is not on electromagnetism, but this will give you an idea of what a very in-depth kind of explanation of the personal meaning of their essential question would look like. So yours doesn't have to be this long, but this gives you kind of the extending end of the ideas. So I'll just read this aloud and you can read along. Feel free to pause me and skip through to the next part if you don't want to listen to my voice. My essential question is, how can nutrition impact disease? So that's their essential question. How can nutrition impact disease? Now they'll give their explanation. So I chose this topic for my IBL inquiry-based learning project because it hit pretty close to home. 2 years ago, my father had a heart attack, ventricular tachycardia, which affected his electrical system of his heart, and he almost lost his life. He was then diagnosed with a progressive heart disease, arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy, which was causing the electrical problem. We were told that he would be on medication for the rest of his life to control the attacks, not be able to exercise or stress his heart, and would live like this for the rest of his days, no longer having a normal life. The doctor said that it was a genetic condition and that there was nothing we could do. As a family, we did not accept this prognosis, and that's when our research began. We discovered a huge amount of knowledge and information on self-healing through nutrition. 6 months later, after a great deal of research about natural healing, my father made a decision against the cardiologist's advice on what therapy he wanted to follow. He strictly followed the chosen therapy, and within a month, he had slowly cycled himself off the medication. He immediately felt and experienced changes in his body. Once he was free of the medication, the attacks completely stopped. He has not had another attack in a year and a half, is exercising regularly, running about 5 kilometers every second day, and has been following resistance training with weights without a single incident. He has continued with this program, and his health continues to improve each day. My father is alive simply because of proper nutrition. He is a living example that not only do natural methods work, but also that there isn't just one method of treatment for an illness. When you provide the body with proper nutrition, the whole body heals. This is why my essential question is meaningful to me. Now, one of the things you'll notice that this student did was use a story to explain the personal meaning. So you could do that in a variety of ways. Even if you were doing something on the Northern Lights, you could tell a story about seeing the Northern Lights, or maybe you tell a story about how you have never seen the Northern Lights, but you have tried so many times. Now, this is not due yet. I have asked for your essential question, but I have not asked you for the full explanation. If you want to quickly jot down your ideas in a notebook, or if you want to do that in a Google document, feel free to create one. But at the moment, I'm just asking you to keep thinking about it and make sure you have an idea as we move forward of why is your question personally meaningful. Now, the section we're going to be introducing today is about your authentic piece, or how you make your learning public. Now, I'll offer you a couple of prompts that Trevor Mackenzie uses in his book. So the first one is, if you could demonstrate your understanding in any way, what would it be? So there are so many ways that you can show your understanding. In school, often we're using reports or posters or brochures or explain everything videos or PowerPoints, right? But you could think outside that box. If you could demonstrate your understanding in any way, what would it be? He also asks, are you really good at something that you feel would help communicate your understanding? Your authentic piece can also be digital or physical or both, right? So there are basically endless possibilities. If you ask me, I will probably be open to your idea. So really take this time to be creative and think of, what would you like to have as an authentic piece, and how would you like to make your learning public? Like, how would you like to share it with the class and show what you've learned? Now, you are absolutely not limited to this list of potential authentic pieces or performances, but this might help you with some brainstorming of different ideas that you'd be interested to use. Now, the ideas I'm going to present are ideas given for all of the subjects, not specifically science. So you might really have to think about how you would tweak something to work for you in a science classroom. So you could choose to have a written authentic piece. So some forms that this could take are an essay, a short story, or a novella. A novella is just like a short novel. It's not a full novel length. So I know this is science. You might be going like, what do you mean I could write like a short story? But actually, we used to have to, in grade 8, write a short story of the digestive system. So you had to be a piece of food and explain the whole process of how it worked through the digestive system. So you could take a creative approach to something that is informational and scientific. You could also choose to do a digital recording, like some type of video. So this could be compiling almost like a documentary. It could be compiling interviews, which yours would all have to be done through a distance probably. Or it could be kind of showing the journey that your experiment took. If you decided to build something, you could have little clips of all the different process that we could follow. And then you could also explain on video how the different scientific components work. So you could also use visual arts, so such as a painting, a graphic novel, illustrations. Now you will have to keep in mind that you will still have to get the scientific information across. So it might be that the piece that you're presenting is the painting, but then you have to also be able to provide evidence of your learning and how you found the answers or just found more learning related to your essential question. So it's not just that you get out of all of the work, but it's kind of a both and. But this would be the visual piece that you would present. You could also do a presentation. So this would have some sort of background thing that presents all your information. So that could be like a Prezi, a PowerPoint, a Keynote, Google Slides, or an Explain Everything video, which is what I make most of your lessons out of right now. You could also choose to do photography. Now, this could include a single photo or a series of photos. You could also do some different things with Photoshop. Maybe you're able to kind of experiment and show what electromagnetism and how it could impact photography and different pieces of that. Once again, kind of similar to that visual arts piece, you will need to have your other research and everything available as well to present that. But this would be kind of your authentic piece that you would show. The last two kind of suggested examples, but once again, you can go beyond any of these and fly whichever way you'd like. You could actually do like a dance or a drama performance. So you would have to be able to tie it in. You would have to be able to tell the story through this, but there are some creative ways that you could do that. And if you need to have a little bit more research handed in on the side, that's okay to help support this, but some way of presenting this through these physical performance pieces. Now, because of our current circumstances, you would probably need to like make a digital recording of your dance or your drama performance, but that is absolutely doable. So your Google question for today is going to be to brainstorm and come up with your answer. What is your authentic piece going to be? How are you going to show your learning? You've already chosen your essential question that's related to electromagnetism. Now, as you do your research, as you try to find an answer to this essential question, how are you going to present your learning and your answer? What is your authentic piece going to be? Now, you can choose to give me this answer in two different ways. So I will have this set up as a question on your assignment, like for Google Classroom. So you can choose to answer it in that question box, and the whole class will be able to see that. It will be made public. But if you would like me to be the only one that sees what you're thinking, you can put that into the private comments. And so I will see that, and I will still mark that you have told me what you think your authentic piece is. And feel free to tell me, like, I actually have like 3 ideas and I'm not sure which one to choose. And we can have a little bit of a discussion about that. So we're on to our next step. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions.